What if I told you your life doesn't change when you make more money? It changes when your net worth crosses certain invisible lines. Most people chase income. The wealthy track net worth. And according to Federal Reserve wealth data, there are 3 specific net worth levels where everything shifts. Your stress, your decisions, even your identity. The first milestone eliminates fear. The second creates freedom. The third creates power. And the third one, only 3% Americans ever reach it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which level you're at, what it unlocks, and the specific moves to reach the next one. Income is what you earn. Net worth is what you keep. You can make $200,000 a year and still be financially fragile, or make $70,000 and be financially powerful. A $200,000 earner with $50,000 in debt and 0 investments, one layoff away from crisis. A $70,000 earner with $150,000 net worth invested in index funds, stress-free, protected, growing, because net worth creates leverage, and leverage changes everything. The first milestone removes fear. The second creates freedom. The third creates power. Let's break them down. But here's what most people miss. Each level requires a different version of you, different behaviors, different psychology, different questions. And if you don't know which level you're building toward, you'll optimize the wrong things for decades. Crossing $100,000 net worth isn't about buying luxury. It's about confidence. According to Fidelity Research, this is the level where financial stress drops dramatically. Not because you're rich, but because you're no longer fragile. At these level, you're no longer paycheck to paycheck. Emergencies don't destroy you. You start thinking in years, not months. You have options. You stop asking, can I afford this? You start asking, is this worth it? This is where most people realize saving feels powerful, but investing is transformational. Here's the math. That $100,000 in an S&P 500 index fund, compounding at historical 10% annual returns, becomes $673,000 in 20 years, without adding another dollar. But most people never reach it. Why? 3 reasons. Lifestyle creep. Every raise goes to bigger rent, nicer car, more expenses, no automation. They rely on willpower instead of systems. Debt psychology. They pay minimums forever instead of eliminating high-interest debt first. So that's how you actually get there. Step 1. Track your net worth monthly. Assets minus liabilities. Use a spreadsheet or app like Personal Capital. Step 2. Automate $500, $1,000 per month into a low-cost index fund like Vitesse. Step 3. Kill high-interest debt aggressively. Credit cards over 15%. That's bleeding wealth. Timeline. With $2,000 a month saved and invested, you hit $100,000 in 3 to 4 years. In the US, this puts you in the top 30% of savers under 35. In the EU, 9210 euros creates the same psychological shift. This level isn't about being rich, it's about being unshakable. When your net worth hits $100,000, your stress drops. Not because you're rich, but because you're no longer fragile. But here's the brutal truth, most financial gurus won't tell you. Most people stall here. They hit $100,000, feel comfortable for the first time in years, and then immediately upgrade their lifestyle by 40 to 50%. Bigger apartment, nicer car, more vacations, and suddenly they're stuck at $120,000 for the next 10 years. This is lifestyle creep, the silent wealth killer. Because the jump to the second level, that's where real freedom lives, and it requires something most people are willing to do. Keep living like they still building. At $500,000 net worth, something subtle but massive happens. Your money starts earning meaningful money. A 7% return on $100,000. That's $7,000 a year. Nice, but not life-changing. A 7% return on $500,000. That's $35,000 a year. That's a salary. That's freedom, according to Vanguard Wealth Research. This is the level where people report the highest increase in life satisfaction. Not because they're rebuying more stuff, but because they have at this level. You have career leverage. You don't fear your boss. Negotiation power. You can walk away from bad deals. Time flexibility. You can take risks, pivot careers, start businesses. Emergency immunity. Job loss. Medical crisis. You're insulated. Psychological shift. You stop thinking like an employee. You start thinking like an owner. But here's what actually gets you there. Most people think it's just save more. Wrong. It's about optimization. 1. Increase contributions when income rises. Gotta raise. Invest 50% of it before lifestyle inflation hits. 2. Diversify intelligently. $500,000 shouldn't all be in index funds. Add real estate, dividend-paying stocks, tax-advantaged accounts. 3. Tax efficiency. At this level, taxes become your biggest drag. Learn tax loss harvesting, Roth conversions, qualified dividend strategies. From $100,000 to $500,000 takes 8 to 12 years with consistent $3,000, $4,000 monthly investing and 8 to 10% returns. In the US, $500,000 net worth puts you in the top 20% of households. In TU, €450,000, 500 euros K is the equivalent psychological and financial threshold. This is the level where fear starts disappearing. Not because you're rich, because you're positioned. At $500,000 net worth, your money works harder than you do. That's when fear starts disappearing. But here's where the real divide happens. Very few people cross the third level. Why? Because this level doesn't just require discipline or consistency. It requires identity shift. You have to stop being someone who works for money and become someone who designs life with money. Let's be clear. This isn't about Lamborghinis or luxury watches. $1 million net worth is about insulation. At this level, even a conservative 5% return generates $50,000 per year. A moderate 7% return, $70,000 per year. That's livable income without touching principal. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, only 10% of US households reach this level, and the psychological difference is profound. You now have time freedom. Work becomes optional. Investment access, private deals, angel investing, real estate syndications. Risk tolerance, you can take calculated bets without fear. Strategic leverage, money becomes a tool, not a goal. Legacy thinking, you start asking, what am I building beyond myself? But the biggest shift, you stop chasing money. You start designing life. You don't work because you have to. You work because you choose to. From $500,000 to $1 million takes 6 to 10 years with 1. Income scaling. You can't just save your way here. You need business ownership, strategic career moves, side income streams. 2. Compound acceleration. At $500,000 invested, every 1% return improvement equals $5,000 a year. Optimize. Asset allocation, fee minimization, tax strategy. 3. Lifestyle discipline. The people who reach $1 million aren't the highest earners. They're the ones who resist lifestyle inflation the longest. In the US, $1 million net worth puts you in the top 10%. In TU, €90,000. €1 is the equivalent threshold. This is the level where you stop working for money. Money starts working for your choices. When you cross $1 million net worth, you stop working for money. Money starts working for your choices. Here's what nobody tells you. Each level requires a different version of you. To reach $100,000, you need discipline, automate savings, kill debt, track obsessively. To reach $500,000, you need consistency. Don't panic. Don't lifestyle inflate. Optimize. Tax it. To reach $1 million, you need ownership thinking, equity, leverage, income diversification. Income alone doesn't get you there. Behavior 2. Most people never cross these invisible lines, not because they can't, but because they optimize the wrong things. They chase higher salary income, nicer car status, bigger house expenses, instead of higher net worth, leverage, lower stress freedom, more options power. And here's the brutal math. Someone earning $80K with $300,000 net worth has more power than someone earning $150,000 with $50,000 net worth. Because wealth isn't about what you earn, it's about what you keep, grow, and control. Remember those invisible lines I mentioned at the start? They're not about status. They're about control. Control over stress. Control over time. Control over decisions. $100K removes fear. $500K creates freedom. $1M creates power. And most people never cross them, not because they lack intelligence or work ethic, but because they optimize income instead of net worth. They work harder, not smarter. So here's the real question. Which level are you closest to right now? And more importantly, what's the one behavior stopping you from the next one? Comment your current net worth range. Be honest. No judgment. Building to $100,000. Between $100,000, $50,000, $500,000, $1 million. Over $1 million. And I'll reply with your next strategic move. Because wealth isn't built in giant jumps. It's built by crossing invisible lines. One milestone at a time. If this shifted how you think about money, hit subscribe. I break down one wealth principle every week that most people never learn. See you in the next one.